have everything, but to have nothing. A hollow outlook on the future of Africa. According to common belief, our world today consists of three different types of countries: high-income developed countries, newly emerging economies, and low-income developing countries. As a general audience, when we mention these three types of countries, there are certain ideas that strike our mind. We associate the West with high-income developed countries. We associate Middle East and Asia with newly emerging economies. But never do we associate anything other than the term low-income developing countries when talking about Africa. As a continent, Africa holds the largest reserves of cobalt, diamond, platinum, and uranium. Africa as a single continent accounts for over 65% of the world's arable land, whilst accounting for 18% of the total world population. And yet, 431 million people in Africa live below the extreme poverty line, which is almost 1/3 of the entire African population. 385 million people in Africa live without access to basic, clean drinking water as of 2020. Over 60% of the African population does not have access to education. Africa today breathes air of exploitation, manipulation, and oppression. William Shakespeare, in one of his many literary pieces, describes this test of time for individuals and communities as a stage where we play our part and eventually leave without any hopes of ever returning again. However, as we have seen in modern cinema, we can interpret this as a fact that each and every single one of us is the protagonist of our own story. A story, a role, where the entire world watches as the test of time constantly knocks us down, as the feeling of defeat crawls closer and closer. And yet, the protagonist, every single time, gets back on his feet and in the face of doom, fulfills their purpose. A famous example of this is Dr. Strange, a surgeon, a very distinguished surgeon. He got into a terrible car accident and lost his ability to ever perform surgery again. The test of time, the test of life had knocked him down. However, as time went on, he realized his true purpose of being and fulfilled it by becoming Sorcerer Supreme. This entire story, this entire culture relates to this tradition of kintsugi, a word of Japanese origin which appreciates the beauty that lies in imperfection, impermanence, and the patina that comes with age. Therefore, instead of hiding cracks or fractures, objects are mended with precious metals to increase their value, increase their preciousness. A tradition that Africa is soon to follow. For the sake of argument, let us consider three African countries: DRC, Ghana, and Libya. DRC, also known as the Democratic Republic of Congo, is one of Africa's richest countries in terms of mineral wealth. It has significant reserves of diamond, gold, copper, cobalt, tin, and lithium. From these stats, one might infer that the material wealth DRC would possess in theory would be unfathomable. However, that statement couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, the Democratic Republic of Congo suffers greatly from malnutrition, political conflicts, improper health leading to deadly diseases, gang violence, and many more. A consequence of choices made in the past. The second country we look at is Ghana. Geographically, Ghana has a high abundance of manganese, bauxite, and diamonds. Ghana also has deposits of limestone, salt, and iron ore. However, similar to DRC, Ghana is deep into poverty due to exploitation of materials, high inflation, high unemployment rates, and mismanagement of resources, a consequence of choices made in the past. The last country we look at is Libya. Beneath its land, Libya contains many natural resources, such as oil, natural gas, iron, potassium, and limestone. However, Libya as a nation suffers from extreme poverty due to the Libyan civil war and illegal mining of minerals through third-party countries. From these examples, we can assume the wider majority of Africa to be like a broken vase, broken by scars of the past, mistakes of the present, and mismanagement of the future. However, it is now time for Africa to wake up, for governments to realize the value and the worth of this region. It is time to realize that the world economy relies on Africa to function. Whether it be lithium for batteries, gold for technology, or diamonds for jewelry, the world economy relies on the abundant resources found within the African soil to function. It is time for this test of centuries for this continent to end. That the continent of Africa is not only restored to its previous preciousness, to its previous value, to its previous glory, but also mended to become even more valuable. The idea of kintsugi. For this purpose, I propose a three-step general action plan, the WEC, which stands for water, education, and control. The first one we look at is water. Much of Africa, much of the African population suffers today because of either insufficient or no supply of healthy drinking water. The idea is that before we can solve complex problems such as industrial development, we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to fix the basic insecurities. Fixing the problem of water in Africa has the potential to decrease deadly diseases such as typhoid, cholera, and polio by a very, very significant margin. The second step, education. Let me give you an astonishing fact. Mozambique, one of Africa's fastest growing economies, has less than 7% of potentially eligible teenagers attending the final 2 years of high school. Less than 7%. In a world where competitive states are at large, with measures of human development being prioritized, providing quality education, investing in the future, and making sure that the population is literate becomes one of the most significant factors of development that any region in the world could undertake. The last step we look at is control. Majority of Africa suffers today because they do not have control over what is their own. Leases to offshore countries who mine minerals from this very African soil, paying pennies on the dollar and earning millions in the process, exploiting resources, violating human rights. It is time that governments put a halt to this entire process and instead invest in capital that allows them to mine these minerals themselves. Though in extremely low quantities at first, the idea is to build towards a sustainable system that allows these countries to build towards a greater economy, to gradually develop together. This entire action plan fits into this idea of kintsugi, The idea that we repair something, this time through water security and secondary education, and then we mend it to make it even more precious, this time by investing in the future and taking control of what is ours. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Kintsugi, this time for Africa. Thank you.